Joining us now for insight into these issues is Representative Ron Estes. He's the congressman serving the 4th District in Kansas. So, Congressman, I appreciate you being on the program tonight. I want to start from the top and kind of work our way down. We see the Biden transition team moving ahead with a lot of its nominees, a lot kind of raising concerns from not only conservatives, but there are also some progressives raising their concerns about a lot of these appointees, saying that they're just kind of the same type of revolving door type of politicians that we've seen in the past. When you look at the team that Biden is putting together, do you have concerns?
I really do have concerns. You look at, there's probably 3 different categories. One, it's the recycled folks from the Obama administration, and we know how bad the economy was during that time. It's also some appointments to appease the left, like Javier Becerra, who really, doesn't have a connection to Health and Human Services. And then a lot of folks that are just unqualified in terms of the positions. You look at Department of Transportation or the VA. We want to make sure that we have good folks in the administration that help support and get things done for the country.
No, and I think that is a very good point, because we could even talk about, for example, Susan Rice being on a domestic policy council where she is, her entire career, been someone who is more so foreign affairs. It almost seems like it's a parliamentary type system a little bit, where there's people that they want to give jobs to, and now they're just kind of putting them where they fit. But when it comes to the Biden team as well, they did announce, of course, that Hunter Biden is under investigation for tax affairs. We've since seen additional reporting that it may be more expansive than that. Do you think that President Trump should appoint a special counsel, or if not President Trump, the potential Biden Department of Justice should appoint one the same way that the Trump administration did?
Yeah, I really think we need to get to the bottom of this. I mean, as we're seeing some of the evidence come out, texts and emails talking about some of the things that Hunter Biden was involved in, and in some cases that then Vice President Joe Biden was involved in as well. And we want to make sure that, things are up above board. When we look at what the whole purpose for a special prosecutor is, to make sure is that there are not any family issues that may connect and distract from a legitimate investigation, just to make sure we get to the truth. I mean, American people deserve that.
I think you're very much so right, because, for example, I remember the beginning days of Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. Even a lot of Republicans were saying, you know what, let's let the thing play out, let's get answers so the American people can move forward. It wasn't necessarily the same blanket type of rejection as we're seeing right now from Democrats, not only when it comes to Hunter Biden. I mean, that's something that we almost can't even talk about in the media these days, otherwise we get banned from Twitter or whatever. But also now, when it comes to Representative Eric Swalwell, we saw, for example, House Minority Leader talk about that earlier today, saying that there needs to be some type of further scrutiny, because he's someone who right now sits on the House Intelligence Committee and gets very sensitive information. Do you have concerns about him not only sitting on that committee, but his overall position in Congress?
Yeah, Eric Swalwell should not be on the Intelligence Committee. I mean, the whole issue is that he's got a long-term relationship with an apparent Chinese spy. He's actually got briefed on that years ago, and then turned around and met with her, and then she fled the country. And so, it's one of those things that, we don't know all the things that went on, but we certainly want to make sure that the Intelligence Committee has such a big focus on so many things that are important for the country, and we need to make sure that we have good, reliable folks that participate in that, and make sure that there's not been any issues with that.
And of course, this is the only, or the most recent, I should say, example of China interfering in U.S. politics to a very detrimental way. I mean, we could go on and talk about China's behavior when it comes to trade, pegging their currency, human rights abuses. I mean, I could go on. And this, by the way, is not the first spy that has been caught doing this. Senator Dianne Feinstein had a driver, for example, who was driving her around while she was making these types of phone calls. China is very much so an adversary when it comes to this sense. Is it time for Congress to take action against it in a more substantive way?
It really is. You see time after time where China has come up with so many different ideas and so many different issues that they've done. I mean, obviously we talked about trade a lot. President Trump was fighting back on that for the last 4 years. But you look at having to close their consul in Houston because of the work that they were doing to help create some of the turmoil this summer. And we need to make sure that, we recognize that there's going to be some attempts at spying from different countries across the world. But China needs to be addressed in terms of its relationship with the United States. And if it wants to maintain its position as part of the body of nations, it needs to act in the same way that we expect other countries to act.
No, and I don't think we could talk about this topic without addressing the fact that this pandemic that we're currently dealing with right now, where lawmakers are talking about billions of more dollars in stimulus aid, the whole reason we're talking about this is because of China's actions at the very early days of this outbreak. Not only where it started, but also their willingness to silence whistleblowers, to cover up important information that could have saved hundreds of thousands of lives across the country. So when we talk about this relief that we're now forced to deal with, thanks to the CCP, what does a potential bill look like as of right now, as it's being negotiated, and do you support it?
Yeah, it really is sad about what they've done with COVID, and in terms of not sharing with the world the information they had, in fact silencing their doctors that were actually talking to them about it, what the issue was. And then using the World Health Organization as a cover to help hide that information from the world. And so we've gotten to this point where we are struggling, United States as well as so much of the rest of the world. We're looking at that we need to extend an additional relief package. That's what we're working on over the weekend, have been working on for several weeks. And we need to make sure that we address some of those issues that really affect the American people. And, for example, extending the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program, we authorized over $138 billion that wasn't applied for back when the deadline ended in August. We've been trying since August to extend that, allow people to have access to that. We need to expand that so businesses can keep their employees going. We need to look at the tax deductibility of the forgiveness of loans through the Paycheck Protection Program. Businesses are being hit now with the threat that they might be taxed for that loan forgiveness, and that wasn't the intention at all when we passed the bill. When you look at things like a bill that I'm pushing with help in the Senate, as well as Republicans and Democrats involved in it, on the Aviation Manufacturing Jobs Protection Act, to help make sure that we keep moving forward and keep people employed.
Yeah, and of course, I think it's worth noting, too, that the World Health Organization recently said that it is going to be investigating China, but it can't obtain its own evidence. It's being given samples by the Chinese Communist Party that will then be examined by the WHO. And I think that speaks for itself when we're talking about what type of action China is willing to take, and also the World Health Organization willing to cover for China in that sense as well. But Representative Ron Estes, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight, updating us on all this information. I know I threw a lot at you right there, but I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you.